Welcome, low ego action heroes and phoenixes. I'm Debbie Levitt from dcx, and welcome to the 22nd of April, 2026 Ask Me Anything, in which you can ask me anything. I am here to be your mentor, coach, advisor, sounding board, anything you want to talk about in life or work. You are welcome to ask. All questions are welcome. There is no charge. You can put something in the chat, which will pop up here, like Ana Lucia's hello, back at you. Or you can send something to dcx.to slash letter Q for question. That is sometimes a little slow, but will eventually come into my email, and I will catch that question. I will put it up and I will answer it. Quick note. First of all, have you joined our community? dcx.to will link you to everything there. Second of all, I got an email from someone today who had bought the Atomic Product Market Fit book, the digital version. And they said that the EPUB was giving them some error messages. I know that different EPUB readers are, some are more likely to give errors and some are less likely to give errors. So I'm wondering if anyone is getting errors in their EPUB. Please contact me however you like to contact me. Let me know. I might already know. I've now seen some of these errors, and just know that I'm going to be working this week on a fix. And of course, anybody who's getting error messages in their EPUB will get a replacement at no charge, with my apologies. So there you go. Okay, with that out of the way, we did get a question ahead of time. You can always send your questions to dcx.to/q 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I do these shows nearly every Wednesday, and I save them. I save your questions for the next show. So I am going to put up the question, and we will dive into it because it's long and it's got lots of different pieces, but I think those questions are great. Feel free to send long questions with lots of moving pieces. So let's see. Oh, yes, the Discord is saying I'm live. I'm live. Okay. This question says, for starters, and to be honest with you, I don't like cover letters. I don't believe we should need that, as many recruiters and hiring managers don't even read it. Still, it seems to be a requirement for many jobs. So let's consider you find your dream job or something close to it. As your dream job, you likely have a ton of ideas you'd like to explore, but as a professional, there's only so much you can say to them, so you don't give them your full research plans or research ideas that they can use and not hire you. Same thing could happen in an interview, for example. How can you show that you're the perfect candidate for that job without giving away too much, but giving just enough so that they want to hear more from you, see you as an extremely motivated professional, and potentially hire you? In your point of view, of course, we can never know what companies consider the perfect candidate. We can only make a guess. Yeah, I definitely have some opinions on this. It's a really interesting question about what should be in a cover letter. And I'm not a recruiter or an in house HR person, so I can't say when I read a cover letter, I'm looking for this. Or I do read cover letters. I don't read cover letters. Or AI summarizes the cover letter for me. I don't even know what's going on out there anymore. So take my advice with a grain of salt and maybe try to find some information from the people actually reviewing these things. But I'm with you. I don't think a cover letter should be necessary anymore. I think it's a little old fashioned or out of style. I mean, traditionally, when I was young and learning to write these types of things, it was always like super formal and polite, and you were supposed to indicate your interest in the job and why you were a good match. So I think I still come from that old school approach that if I'm going to write a cover letter, those are the two things I'm basically trying to say: why I'm interested in this job, or why it's a dream job, or what I'm excited about, and why I believe I'm a good match. I usually don't start giving people research ideas or research techniques or research plans, I think that's too early. I think that can accidentally reflect badly unless they say, give us a cover letter including some of your research ideas for us. Well, then obviously they've asked for it. But if they don't ask for it, I think you run the risk that you look like someone who's starting to try to work there without even learning what's going on there. You don't even know some of the business goals. You don't even know how the product teams work. You don't even know what inside their company is working or not working. And so I usually stay away from that. Once in a rare while, if I'm a customer and I believe it's a dream job, I might mention, yeah, and I'm a customer and I recently had some trouble with this. So maybe that's an area I could research if I worked there. But I think sometimes pointing out problems to people when you're not even interviewed and hired yet can look a little weird. So I don't do it. I never did it very much and I don't do it anymore. Meanwhile, Anna Lucy is here and she knows that I recently applied for my dream job because she sent it to me. And she knows that 48 hours I got declined with no interview and I wrote a cover letter and the whole thing. So, certainly, there's no guarantee. We don't know what people are looking for. I have no idea why they didn't interview me. I will say that an actual human with a real email address wrote to me to reject me. So, that was a nice step up from no replies and form emails. The email didn't offer any feedback, but I have no idea why. It could be something. It could be anywhere from ageism to we don't like where you live to we think you're overqualified to you didn't have a particular experience in this slice of thing. It's hard to say. I think was that the one where they wanted me to also speak German. I think that was like German fluency preferred or German fluency required or something like that. That was like the only thing I would have been missing there. I think there was like a German fluency either preferred or required. So okay, I get it. Dream job. Maybe there was something about it where I just wasn't enough of a fit to interview, but I don't think the problem was my cover letter. The problem is going to be something else about me. I don't live where they want me to live. I don't speak a language they want me to speak. I got rejected last week because somebody wanted me to have experience working with factories. I have not yet done a project for a factory. I do a lot of digital work, but every time I do a project, I have to get to know that domain in that space. Those of us who work in CX and UX, you know what I'm talking about. We're all chameleons. We have to come in and learn the new thing. And so I felt like, yeah, why can't I learn enough about factories to do a project for a factory, and they made it sound like, no, this is make or break stuff. We really want someone with that experience, and I had everything else, and so I was like, okay. And again, was the problem the cover letter? No, I didn't even send one. So, and at least a human told me why. So that was also helpful. Ana Lucia says, I still think they made the wrong choice by not interviewing you. It's quite odd. You're a sound engineer. It's more than perfect. Yeah. Um, yeah, I would still love to work at that company, but again, if I remember correctly, there was a language requirement that I wouldn't. I think they wanted German, and I don't. My German is, I like to say I can discuss potatoes with small children. Yeah, they asked for German, but they could compromise on that if they thought you were perfect. I thought so too. But again, they're a German company in Germany, and if they operate primarily in German, even though their website is available in English, and when I write to them, they write me back in English. If they're operating day to day mostly in German, then I'm not going to be able to do that. It really depends on how the company operates. Like my husband is working for a Dutch company. They are operating, at least with him, in English. And so him not speaking Dutch wasn't a problem. Him speaking English actually helped him get the job. So I think when we think about cover letters, I tend to aim for two main topics that I try to cover in no longer than a half a page. So, even shorter maybe than the length of your question. Basically, Hi, I'm Debbie. I've been a researcher for X years. Before that, I've also been a designer and a strategist, and I'm really excited about this job because I'm a customer. I love your company. Take my money. Or, hey, I have extensive background in this area. Like Ana Lucia pointed out, I'm a sound engineer. I'm a musician. I'm a sound engineer. This is a musical gear company. So usually I try to point out some things that make me a good fit, either um, something related to my experience, or maybe something from my education that's relevant, or maybe something from previous project that's relevant. Like, hey, this sounds great. I did a bunch of projects like this a couple of years ago when I worked for so and so. You're doing fintech. Hey, I worked for these banks or something like that. So thing one, I try to tell them why I'm excited, and thing two, I try to tell them why I think I'm a good match, which again, is a good match is usually something from my experience, education, sometimes personal interests or hobbies, or previous employers. And that's it. So, looking back at the original question, no, I don't give them any research plans. I don't say, "Oh, I'm so excited about this job. I would love to work there. I'm a happy customer. Oh, I would love to bring my magic to what you do. Here's my research plan." You don't even know the project. You don't even know what they're looking to change or keep the same. You don't know how product teams work. You don't know their priorities or their roadmap or their strategies or their company goals. Way too early to give them research plans or research ideas. The designers sometimes fall into the same bucket. They think that they will make a good impression on someone. I don't know if people still do this, but they used to think, some designers would think that if they did a quick redesign of something on the website or app for the company they're applying to, that the company would be very impressed by this and their application would rise to the top. And in some cases it did, but in most cases, people ended up posting to LinkedIn, like, stop sending me redesigns of our site. I didn't ask you for that. And you don't understand all of the decisions that went into the site being like that. And for you to come into this with no background on what we're doing, no understanding of company dynamics or power dynamics, no understanding of our KPIs or goals or any of this, and you're just going to say your site should look like this, that's very presumptuous and comes off a little bit not team playery, like you're just assuming. It'd be like someone walking up to someone and going, "Hey, you're kind of fat, but let me tell you what diet you should be on." You have no idea what's going on for that person. Doesn't make sense. So, I do not recommend that anybody put into a cover letter anything that looks like a research plan or a research idea or a redesign plan or a redesign idea, or here's some of the areas of your site where I think you should redesign it next. Because um, that can just come off weird when you haven't even had an interview yet and you don't even know what's really going on behind the scenes. So I hope that helps the person who asked a question. If you happen to be watching live and you have a follow up question, send it in. If you didn't ask this question and you have a follow up question, send it in. You can put it in the chat where it'll pop up on the screen with your name, or you can send it to dcx.to/q. But I think we've answered that one. That's my perspective on cover letters. Other people may give you different advice. I filled out an application today. Someone from my online community found a job that they thought that I could be, or maybe it was yesterday. Someone sent me a job. They thought I could be a match. I said, why not? I'll fill out the application. There was room for a cover letter. I didn't write one. It wasn't it was optional. To me, if a company wants a cover letter, then it should be required in the application, but then they should be required to read it. So if the cover letter is optional and I'm not completely on fire about the job, I don't write one. Maybe that works against me getting the job. Maybe they only want the people who wrote the cover letter. I don't know. The whole thing is a game, and we're not set up to win. Where are all of these hiring managers? Why aren't they writing LinkedIn posts and articles saying, "This is what I'm looking for. Please do this"? No, because they're worried someone will game that, but there's only so much you can game that. If I don't qualify for the job, I can try to game my application for what you've asked for. But then if you interview me, it's probably going to fall apart if they're lies. Meanwhile, you're missing out on good and qualified people because you can't be clear with us how we're going to be assessed. Will a human see this? Is everything AI? I don't even know. I did see an interesting post on LinkedIn the other day. Oh, Ana Lucia said, yesterday someone told me they were rejected before an interview because of a gut feeling. I didn't even know what to tell that person. Yeah, that's tough because chances are the gut feeling is not the root cause. The gut feeling is something we say or think when we see something we think is evidence that this person isn't right. We didn't interview them to check if that evidence is accurate or not, and so we say I have a gut feeling. It is a bad excuse. I would always rather that people ask me questions, and I've struggled with that for a very long time. For example, I've had people say to me, well, we didn't want to interview you because we probably can't afford you. And I was like, that makes no sense. You put the salary in the job application. I applied because I know what you're paying. I will accept that pay. Why would you assume that I'm not going to accept that pay? Oh, well, because you're kind of well known, and we assume that as soon as somebody is willing to pay you more, you're just going to leave. Why? You made all this up. This is heartbreaking. You've made up a whole bunch of stuff about me that isn't true. I'm a highly loyal person, not motivated by money. Can everybody in my community please remind everybody how I'm not motivated by money? I think y'all would have noticed by now if I was motivated by money, I would have the super expensive Maven course and the paid Substack and the paid elite club and the paid everything. So always disappointing when somebody won't. Timmy gave me a bunch of advice for free. I'm giving everyone advice for free. It's always disappointing when somebody makes up a story about me, and then I hear later, like, "Oh, we didn't." We didn't. Oh, well, we didn't pick you because we didn't think you'd be able to come to our London office once in a while. What are you talking about? I'm in London a few times a year. I can easily get to London from where I am. Why didn't you ask me? And then it's deer in headlights. We don't know how to answer that. We made this thing up. And sometimes even when I tell people the reality and the truth, they still don't believe me. I say, I'll accept your pay. That pay works for me. No, you're probably expecting to be paid more because you're an author and whatever, and you'll just leave when you get paid more. Paid more by whom? I saw a job today for UX researcher that was offering $45 an hour. That's That's a lot less than what I used to be paid. I've had to readjust to these numbers. You're in Italy, you're like 2 hours away. Yeah. In fact, one of the people who's trying to help me get that job pointed out that when he's required in London, he has to take a train to London, and it takes him 3 or 4 hours by train to get to London. And I said, that's hilarious because it's a 2.5 hour flight for me. And he said, yeah, I actually told the hiring manager Debbie could get there before I could. And so, yeah, so when somebody's made stuff up about you. It's often hard to I've been saying for my entire life it is often hard to box, as in, have a punching fight with a ghost. If you've invented some fake version of me, or you've invented what you think my priorities are, um it's hard to fight that. It's hard to tell people, "Hey, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You're assuming that the number one thing on my list is money, and it's not. I want to be paid decently, but I'm not primarily motivated by money." And you would think people who've been watching any of my videos would notice that by now, given all of the free things that we offer: free Twitch, free Patreon, free webinars every week, so a couple of paid courses that are charging a tenth of what other people are. My AI course is you can take the short version for 99 American dollars. You can take the long version for 299 American dollars. I'm giving everybody a discount coupon, and the closest I could find to it was an NNG course, and they're charging $1,200. Okay, shall ye too? You pick. So yeah, it's very hard, and I've always found that these are just things that sometimes a cover letter doesn't fix, and sometimes even talking to people doesn't fix. They go, "Well, we assumed that you wouldn't blah blah blah." Why'd you assume that? Why didn't you talk to me? And then, like, they don't know. They expected me to go, "Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. I would have done that." And then I go, "No, no, that's not me at all. I think you've got me wrong there." And then they go, "Oh." Ana Lucia says, on that note, I'm afraid that people may have the wrong idea about me. I know my career path is not conventional, but I think it scares people, or they don't really get what I did or my background. Not sure. I really wish I could tell some people, look, want me to tell you why and explain things? Ask me things. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, um, I almost want to write that on a shirt. Like, do you have a question about me? Ask me. Hi, Amy. People making assumptions are annoying. Yes, assumptions are always annoying and almost always wrong. Hashtag atomic product market fit. um yeah, it's unfortunate, and I'm in some of my stories that I'm telling you right now, I'm going back 10 years or more, because I've had to deal with these weird things for like ever, and usually it's money or it's travel, and I've always been okay accepting average or just below average pay, and I think that's mostly because I don't have children and I don't have parents. And so I don't have a lot of the expenses the average person has. So if an average person needs to make X to get by because of children and or parents, I can make 90% of X, sometimes 80% of X. Like sometimes these numbers that people think are too low work for me, especially now that I live here. When I lived in San Francisco, okay, I could go maybe 90% X, but now that I live here, sometimes I can go 50% X. It's weird. I don't want to have to, but that's the direction that salaries are going in. And so I keep trying to tell people, like the people the other day who said I didn't have industrial experience, they were like, oh, you'd have to spend a lot of time in Barcelona for this job. And I was like, oh my God. Okay. That's easy for me to get to. That's a nonstop flight. I can easily get to Barcelona. I can even take a ferry there and go in style. And I said to my husband, like, what if I had to be in Barcelona for like a month? Could you take care of the dogs and take care of your mom? And he's like, yes, yes, of course. If you can get work, this would be great. And then the person writes me back before I was rejected. And she was like, yeah, we'd need you in Barcelona like 3 or 4 days a month. And I was like, that is so easy. That is so easy. That's nothing. I was worried you were going to tell me I had to be in Barcelona a month at a time, and I would have to leave my husband for a month and dogs and so on. So, yeah, I can be in Barcelona for 3 days. I can be in Barcelona for a month. My husband and I will figure it out. We've got dogs, and someone will walk them. Ana Lucia says, I've seen a job offer for a place that I think it's one of your preferences. They're based in London, remote, and they've opened up a new location in Barcelona. I was like, hire Debbie. She can go there once in a while. Yeah. So the weird thing is, I don't have the right to work in the UK because of Brexit. So I do have an EU right to work. I don't have my citizenship yet. That's being processed right now. I expect to get it this year, but I do have the EU right to work. I have what's called a residence card, and that gives me the right to live here and the right to work here. But with Brexit, I technically don't have the right to work in the UK because the UK is not part of the EU. So sometimes I have to reject a job when people send me cool jobs because they're in London or they're for a British company. And then I have to go, oh, yeah. Or Canada. People think, oh, you're American, work in Canada. I don't have the right to work in Canada. Just because America is near it doesn't mean I've got the right to work there. So I usually don't apply to Canada and the UK because I don't have the right to work there unless they hire my American corporation or my Italian uh, company. So I have an Italian company, I have an American company. If you hire those, then I can work for anybody. Like when I worked for Stepstone, a German company, also known as Total Jobs in the UK, they actually hired me through Total Jobs in the UK, but they paid my American company. Once you're paying a company, it doesn't matter the the person. You hired the company, and then the company pays the person. Amy says 3 or 4 days in Barcelona a month. That's a perk, not a problem. Yeah, and they were going to pay expenses for it. I was like, please let me do this job. You're talking about Monzo. Yeah, Monzo's got a lot of jobs open right now. And the downside is, again, since there are so many people out of work, as soon as these companies open a job, they've got 500 applications. And yeah, I got one a couple of weeks ago where, by the way, if anyone has questions, send them in. I'm just killing some time till we get more questions. Oh, we got a question. It came in 5 minutes ago and I didn't see this. Okay, thanks. Thanks for your patience, person. We'll do this question next. Anyway, what I was going to say was um, I got feedback from a job a couple of weeks ago saying our AI read your resume, and even though there's a lot that we like, you probably won't get an interview because you didn't say these four things. And I was like, oh, ugh, whatever. It's just a game. It's a game. All right, we're getting another question in. Let me get it up on the screen. And let's see what it says. Okay. And thank you to people who send it. Oh, wrong button. I meant to hit the overlay button, not the replace me button. All right. So this question says, any thoughts on finding honest ways to network? I never liked the idea of schmoozing for the sole purpose of making shallow connections. I would like to meet people with similar interests and goals. I used to use LinkedIn, but now it feels like I can't even gauge who a person really is due to AI content. Yes, absolutely. I am just hiding and disconnecting all the people who are posting AI content. I don't want to try to connect with somebody who's not going to be authentically themselves. If I wanted to hear what Claude had to say, I'd ask. So I agree with you, and I think some of the best networking is going to happen in two places. One is going to be in-person events. If you can go to in-person business-related events and conferences, that's how I grew a lot of my LinkedIn following. My LinkedIn following has stalled in the last 2.5 years, mostly because LinkedIn has been shadow banning me. But before that, I was growing about 10,000 people a year because I was speaking at a lot of conferences. People were adding me on LinkedIn. And then as they were seeing my content, that was rippling out and growing until LinkedIn started shadow banning me. So, number one, I think in person conferences can be a good way to meet new people. And Will the connection be shallow or deep? I don't know, but I think it's just always good to meet new people and talk to people and see what kinds of connections you make and what you have in common in work or not work. Um, and yeah, so in-person events where you can afford to do them. I'm going to fly to London, funny enough, in early June to go to an in-person Miro event, because why not make some better connections with Miro and people who use Miro. I am a person who uses Miro, hashtag not sponsored, and that could be an interesting place to meet other people from corporations, maybe other consultants, and who knows where there's some opportunity to raise each other up. By the way, we'll be having a dinner the night before in London, which is June 1st. The event is June 2nd. If you want to be part of the London dinner, make sure you contact me, because right now there's five of us going to dinner. And if we get more people, I have to get a bigger table. So, number one, in person events, I think, can be a good way to go, but you also have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit. Sometimes I go to in person events, and when it's lunchtime, I sit at an empty table and I wait to see who sits with me. And sometimes it's nobody, and sometimes it's somebody. And I will definitely start a conversation with anyone who joins the table. So sometimes people just stay with the people they know. But I challenge people, if you go to an event, don't eat with your coworkers. Don't eat necessarily with the people you know. Go find new people. That's part of why you're there. So for people who might be shy or introverted or have some social anxiety, this can definitely not feel like a great, exciting thing. But this is networking. Networking is about making these connections. The other thing is online communities. There are online communities where people can really feel like they're getting to know each other and they're making good connections, and people care about and support each other. And there are online communities where people just post stuff and it's kind of still at a factual level and it doesn't really feel like networking. We're not really getting to know each other. We're not really building trust. We just all kind of post here. So I would say, like, the Miro community, I'm in Miro's online community. They use Circle. In order for me to use Circle, I have to go log into Circle. I don't keep it on my phone. I don't stay logged in all day pressing refresh. So I'm very peripherally involved in the Miro online community. So I would say I don't feel like I've networked very much or very well there. Um, Compare that to our Discord, which is free. We've got over 700 people now. Not everybody's active. Let's see how many people are right now. It says 53 people are online, and maybe some of them are reading or posting. Oh, we have a new warning. Thank you, Ana Lucia is posting a list of people posting scammy fake jobs. We've got both work um, channels and personal channels, so people can talk about whatever in life they would like to. And I feel like there we do get to know each other a little bit better. There seems to be a nice sense of trust. Sure, the community's not going to be for everybody. Some people join and they don't feel like it's for them and they leave, and that's okay. Some people join until they get a job and then they leave. And I always wish they would stay, because we're a great group, even if you do get a job. We're not just for people looking for jobs. And then sometimes they lose their job and they come back. And so, you know what? I want us to be the community that takes care of each other and supports each other, whether or not people have a job. Please don't just go when you have a job. I understand people leaving a community if it's not right for them, but when you leave the Discord community, our moderators get pinged and I see who's leaving. I don't know why, but very often it's people who found a job. And it's like, wow, you're not even going to stay and lurk. You're not going to stay and help others. You're not going to tell us what worked for you. Some do, which is great. And then some just quit the group. And it's interesting because I also heard that was happening in some, certainly not all, of the Never Search Alone groups. People rave about Never Search Alone, but then when I dug a little deeper, not everybody was raving because some people were paying to be in these mini cohorts of people who were supposed to be supporting each other through job searches. And I heard people say that as soon as someone in their mini cohort got a job, they dumped the cohort in the middle. They didn't even stay and support the other people in the cohort, which you would think is the point. Like, hey, there's 4, 6, 8, whatever it is of us in this cohort. We're all struggling. We're all trying to get a job. Never search alone. We're all trying to help each other out. And then, oh, I found a job. Gotta go. Okay. I personally think that networking and communities are all about giving and taking. If you join a community only to take, don't be surprised if you don't get a lot out of it. I think you have to go into these things with a sense of give and take and reasonable expectations and a sense of when should you kind of not bother. Oh, we're getting another anonymous question in 6 minutes ago. Thank you. Um, we'll add that one next. Great questions today. Thank you, everybody. Um, so, anybody have anything to add to the idea of networking? Oh, and don't forget that there's other events too. You know, we were talking about like conferences and events, but don't forget that meetups and guilds and stuff like that. That can be part of that, whether they're in person or online. Like I used to use meetup.com to try to find people who might have similar interests or live near me or stuff like that. um Super wacky side story. Did anybody see the news piece out of America about the guy in Chicago who has recorded over 10,000 concerts and is now going to make those available to the public? Like they were with like a tape recorder or a, recorder in his pocket, recorded 10,000. Does anybody remember? Did anyone hear about that? It's an interesting little human story, and I was just curious if anybody heard that because I have a weird story connected to that person, just to show you a little bit of the type of person I am. So I'll tell you the story anyway, even if you didn't hear about that person. His name's Adam Jacobs, and many years ago, I don't know, 15 or so years ago, when I was traveling a lot for my consulting and work and conference speaking and stuff like that, I used to pop up in many cities. And very often, I didn't have an online community then. So sometimes I'd be like, okay, I've got an evening free. I wonder what I should do with it. And I don't drink. So I'm not like a let's go to the bar person. So at the time, I think I was on OKCupid because I was single, and what I would do is I would look up the most interesting person in that city, interesting to me. And even if I didn't think there was romance or chemistry or attraction there, I would just write to them and be like, "Hi, I'm going to be in your city with a night out. Hey, want to grab some dinner and chat?" And usually people said, "Yeah." I'd say like, we'll split the bill. This is not a hookup. This is not I'm not trying to date you. You just seem like an interesting person. Maybe we can be friends. What do you think? And I actually did that, I think in 2011, with the guy with the 10,000 tapes. I was in Chicago and I had an extra night with nothing to do, and I went on OkCupid and I found him, and I thought, wow, sounds like a really nice guy who's into music and going to concerts and going to improv comedy shows. I'll just write to him and see if he wants to go out for the night, saying this is not a date, it's not a hookup, I'm going to pay for myself, like the friend, you know best thing that happens here is friends. And he was like, yeah. And we went out for the night. He said, "Oh, I'm going to an improv comedy show and I'm going to record it. I record all the shows I go to. Everybody in Chicago knows me as the guy who records all the shows." And I'm like, "Okay." And had a nice time. We kept in touch for some time and then fell out of touch. But it was funny to see him in the news as the guy recording all of the concerts. Hope he's well. Okay, this is the question we just got. It says, "Can you speak on the topic of reclaiming your online identity? This is related to LinkedIn, but can you talk about it more broadly? I have a lot of connections with previous coworkers and frankly don't want to see or know anything about them. I don't want to burn the boats, but I don't identify with who I was before. I would just like to start from scratch, but I also don't want to lose all that history which for most employers translates as credibility." Previous question's also mine. Okay, hi, previous question. I don't know if you're same person from last week, but thank you. Previous question about finding ways to network. So, first of all, on LinkedIn, there's a couple of things to know about connecting with people on LinkedIn. One is that you can connect to someone and you can remove that connection. So obviously, if you're connected to them and they look at you, they'll see the one for the first degree. If you disconnect, they'll usually see a two because you probably have someone in common. So you're a second degree connection. So if you did remove that connection, they'd probably notice because they would then see a two there, assuming they check and they care, which is unlikely but possible. The other thing that you might not know is that I think if you go into the three dots menu under somebody's name on their page and you open up that menu, you'll usually see things like remove the connection, report this person, but there's usually something there that says unfollow. And unfollow means you're still connected to them and they'll see a one if they go to your page, but you won't see their posts in your feed. And usually, if they comment on your post, you might not get notified. So, that could be if you don't want to see these people, then you probably want to unfollow without disconnecting. If you don't want them to know anything about you, then you're probably either disconnecting from them so that you're less likely to show up in their feed, or you would have to block them so that they can't see you at all. So I think it really depends on what kind of boundaries you're trying to draw. So you're saying it's about reclaiming your identity, but I get the feeling it's about these boundaries because you said, "I don't want to see or know anything about them. I don't identify with who I was before, and I want to start from scratch, but I don't want to lose history because employers see that as credibility." Yeah, if you started a new account now, you would have 10 connections, and that would look a little weird, and I totally understand. But you can remove connections, you can keep those connections and unfollow. Those people, they won't even know, so LinkedIn doesn't send a notification to people if you remove the connection or if you unfollow them or even if you block them. They usually if you block them and they go to look for you, they'll not be able to find you and they might realize you blocked them. If you remove the connection and they look at your profile, they'll see a second degree or maybe a third degree if you don't have people directly in common, but you probably do as coworkers, ex coworkers. And then if you unfollow them, they have no way to see that. I don't think there's a way to see that. I mean, I see on some people follows you, but usually that's if they're not connected to me, but they follow me. I think if they're connected to me, it just says connected to you. So I don't think they know that you unfollow them. So yeah, I certainly recommend to people. So, for example, if you like X somebody out in your feed, and it says like, "I don't want to see any posts from Ana Lucia," I think that unfollows that person, but it doesn't block them. "I unfollowed a bunch of people," says Ana Lucia, "who were posting a bunch of nonsense I don't identify with, but I didn't want to remove the connection. I like having my feed clean." Yeah, you can absolutely do hide everything from this person. I remember somebody a few years ago posting like, "I think XYZ, and if you don't like it, you can unfollow me or disconnect from me. So I immediately went to their page, disconnected from them, and unfollowed them because I was not happy with what they said. Some people I do go and block when I see people being abusive to other people, especially if they're saying things that are racist, sexist, ageist, homophobic, and things like that. I just go and block them. This is clearly not someone I'm going to network with or work with. So so previous person, does this help? Let me know. Send in a follow up question or your thoughts. Maybe did I misunderstand this, or what do you think? And of course, if you have a question for this week, or will there be a next week? Yes, we'll be doing this next week. Just checking my calendar. Next week, all of our streams are as planned. We've got our Tuesday, our Take Action Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Italy time, and then we've got our Wednesday Ask Me Anything, which is currently 7 p.m. Italy time, just to get some different time zones in there. If I make everything too late, I don't catch India and Asia, and if I make everything too early, California's not awake yet. So it's tough. I'll just check my email, see if our new person is writing back. And person, if you're not part of our Discord community, please join. You can get lots of interesting thoughts and responses from other people who aren't me. Yeah, so let's check the calendar. Yeah, so reminder, I've got some more courses coming up, including a 3-hour course teaching everybody how to use my new Claude skill. Ana Lucia has already learned that. She can tell you what she thinks of that. But I've got the 3-hour version where you learn about my Claude skill and you get the Claude skill at no extra charge. So I'm excited about that one. Go check it out on the events and courses page, dcx.to/courses. That will take you right to our courses page where we've got a few different options. I'm also doing the long version of the course, which includes some atomic product market fit content. That will be at the end of May, so you can find that as well. Yes. I'm pretty sleepy today, but I have a call after this, and then after that, I shall officially fall apart. But in happy news, while I wait to see if we get another email from our new friend, in happy news, Friday is our dating anniversary, and we're going to go back to the restaurant where we had our first date. Do you remember what we ate? Do you remember what we ordered? I think I had the ravioli. That's funny that you remember what I had, but you don't remember what you had. That's your focus on other people's person as we're a good match. So that'll be Friday night over here. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, yeah, we will be celebrating 9 years together, which I'm very excited about. We also just planned our September camper vacation. I'm going to be practicing streaming from my Android tablet. Some of you know that when we went on our camper vacation last year, we were unfortunately burgled. We had most of what we owned taken. Happy date anniversary! Thank you, Amy. Um, and now I got an inexpensive Android tablet and I'm trying to figure out how much of my work I can actually do from it. And can I travel with just a cheap Android tablet so that if somebody stole my stuff again, they get a cheap Android tablet. So I might try some streams from an Android tablet. If you see a test stream coming through, which I would do Twitch only to not bother everybody else. Uh, and exceedingly close up of me. Just play along. Ana Lucia says, it's actually pretty nice. I'm not sure what I was expecting. Well, I'm quite wary of AI, and it was great seeing an actual process to help. Oh, you're talking about my Claude skill. Thank you. Um, it was great seeing an actual process to help with some of the research tasks. It's not guessing, it's not babysitting, at least not babysitting much, because you have a process to follow through, and Claude doesn't have much to hallucinate with. Thank you. I hope everybody taking my course right now will leave some positive reviews so I can use them in marketing. Okay, we've got person writing back and they say, yes, that's helpful. I think I need to make all new connections and unfollow all of my current connections. It's tempting just to talk to AI to brainstorm, but I want an actual human connection. Yeah. And again, depending upon what you're looking for, that can also be our Discord community. One of the nice things is Discord allows you to be anonymous. I'm up there with my real name. Plenty of people there are using initials or fake names or their gamer names. I have no idea who most of the people are, so it's really easy to be whoever you want to be. And we've got a couple of channels for people who want to talk about job hunting, people who want to talk about work related things on their mind, people who want to talk about AI. And we've got channels for personal things where people might be going through tough stuff or celebrating something. So, it is not just a commiserate Discord. It is a, we're talking about the positive, the negative, and the neutral. All over the place. So, and it's free. It is absolutely free. Nothing is for sale there, and I just keep trying to make it better and more organized, and I'm open to suggestions. So, if you want some humans, we are humans. Also, our Discord has voice and video channels, and I'm trying to encourage people to start co working more or just hanging out, especially if people might be unemployed or looking to meet other people. Just jump into the voice channels. I don't have to be there, they'll start without you, without me. So, go, go, go. Okay, well, thank you, person who sent us today's questions, or two people who sent us today's questions. Super helpful. And okay, just getting a weird email. You're selling your Elgato, so do you have something for sale there? On the Discord, I changed the self promotions channel to self promotions and things for sale, because technically self promotion is a service for sale. So I've changed that channel to services and items for sale, and I posted my Elgato card and my uh, Strix Soar card that I just pulled out of my computer, which is now much quieter. I wasn't even using the cards. They're used but not used. I never plugged anything into them. I never used them. They just sat in my computer since I bought it, and now I'm hoping someone wants them. So, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. I have something for sale there. Yes, please buy my old PCI Windows cards. Um, Other than that, buying all these things is optional. Buying anything from me is optional. The Claude skill, the courses, the coaching, it's all optional. Pay plenty. I mean, we have over 700 people in the community, and I'm sure only a small percentage have bought things from me. It's not there's no test. You're not quizzed on the way in. Have you bought anything from me? So, there you go. All right. I guess I will wrap up as we're coming to the end of the hour. Thanks to everybody for joining today. Again, we do this most Wednesdays. There's a couple of Wednesdays coming up that I will have to take off, but we do this most Wednesdays. And if you send in a question, I will save it. Ana Lucia says, I also have an Elgato, but it's not a card. It's an external thing. I never used it. I considered streaming, but I get shy. Yeah, understandable. Takes certain types of personalities. Okay, thanks everybody for joining on Twitch and LinkedIn and YouTube. This will be archived on YouTube on the Delta CX Hive channel if you want to catch it again or send it to a friend. And if you're watching there now, press like and leave a comment and help us in the algorithm. Thanks everybody, and see you on Tuesday. Bye.